What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Rock and Roll Gypsy Diaries, and I'm your host, Andi Thunders. And with me today is someone I've admired since I was a kid, Kevin Whitworth, lead guitar player for Love Battery, as well as Sky Cries Mary.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
Yes.
I want to make sure I got that right.
Yeah.
How are you doing, and what are you up to lately?
Well, I hate to veer off the topic, but I don't know if you've heard the news. I don't know where you are, but we haven't had summer here yet. And so I'm doing great because I'm sitting here with a glass of wine and the sun's still high in the sky and it's 75 degrees. So I'm in a good frame.
Oh, yeah. You look in a good frame.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So you're re-releasing Dayglow.
Yeah.
Tell me about how you feel about that and how that came about.
Well, that's very exciting, actually. You reminded me before we started talking that I shouldn't probably keep the nastiness to the side if I can.
Yeah.
But I'm really glad the Jackpot Records out of Portland. I don't know if I think they started the ball rolling. I think they actually approached Sub Pop and said, "Hey, can we license Dayglow? Because some people think that it should be reissued, and you have it out of print." And I don't know if it took very long, actually, judging from the correspondence, but they replied fairly quickly and they allowed this to happen. So I have to thank them. Of course, it'd be great if they maybe would want to re-release some of our catalog at some point.
Agree.
But I don't know how to say this in any other way. We were never really a priority for Sub Pop at all.
Well, from reading some others and knowing vague things I've seen, it's no secret that
we're not the only ones either. I mean, but we were from that original crop, but we were the redheaded stepchild of the bunch for sure. But you can't, when someone, especially when we were first starting out, if someone approached, especially back then, everyone seems to be able to put out their own records and stuff now, but this is from a bygone era where you didn't DIY it so much. I mean, it was happening back then, but you don't have a record company come up every day and offer to put out your records. So it's hard to be, I'm grateful.
Yeah, back before the internet and stuff, kids, you couldn't make a record just willy-nilly. You had to pay good money to a studio, and if you didn't have that, you had to have a label to put it up for you. And
Now, basically, we left out because they just, the Between the Eyes EP is just our demo tape, so they didn't have to pay for any studio time.
Oh, wow.
That's our demo without any changes whatsoever.
Isn't it true that for our audience to put in perspective of how, I don't want to badmouth anybody because I love and herald Sub Pop, but I'm going to use the word stingy in the best possible connotation.
Yeah.
I think they asked Kurt when they did Bleach if he could pay for some of the pressing or something like that.
Yeah, I wouldn't use that word to describe them. They just weren't liquid. They never had any money until Nirvana sold some records and generated some steam. I'm not sure. I'm not a business person, and apparently neither were they. I think that's what it really comes down to.
If we're gonna be honest,
yeah. I mean, they scored with Nirvana. Otherwise, we would not be talking, obviously, about Sub Pop. They would have gone away a long time ago.
Well, because I'm sitting here thinking that's unfair to the other bands, including yours, but you're not wrong in that estimation. Because, I mean, until then, Soundgarden and stuff like that were only a minor rumbling.
Yeah, you know what I mean? They were able to make their way a little bit better. I mean, SST was firmer, had a more firm establishment than Sub Pop did, I think, at the time, because I believe they were older, for one thing. SST.
And I've talked with Gary Lee Conner and some others who were signed to them, and there's a lot of shady stuff involved with them.
Oh, too. I've never talked to anybody. I've never talked to anybody about that stuff. So about SST stuff. I know. So I'll do that after we.
Okay. Yeah. I know a bit. So if you know something I don't, I'd love to know off air.
But it was our feeling at the time that, I mean, Sub Pop was our own local thing. SST was to us, that was like Polygram, or
that's punk rock gold back then.
Yeah, we knew the name, that punk rock gold. That's a good way to put it. Yeah. So I don't know what travails they had with them, but we would have loved to have been, talked to by then. But it just so happened, I don't know if you know the story, I think the real reason why we got picked up was just because of personal reasons. Ron and Bruce were friends.
Really?
Yeah,
That's
you
really
know the
weird.
whole story, right? The whole Muzak story where
Yeah,
yeah,
Muzak.
everybody, Zach, everyone worked there, and Ron was one of those people, one of the 5 people there. Like Tad, I believe, worked there.
Oh,
Bruce,
okay.
Charles Pearson worked there too. So here you guys, they're always having lunch together every day at Muzak here on Capitol
Okay,
Hill.
yeah.
So Bruce's label got going, Sub Pop got going, and I think he might have even said, um, it, as an aside to Ron, that we were not, in his view, a Sub Pop band, and I could kind of agree. I don't really think we had that much in common with those, or those the
When I
about
first
Rangers.
heard Between the Eyes, the title track, somewhere in passing when I was 5 or 6 years old, at that point I knew like Kiss, Iron Maiden, Def Leppard, and the Beatles. And then I heard Love Battery, and I was like, this is kind of like the Beatles, but heavy. Like, because that's the
I
only
love
thing
that
my
quote.
brain could think of. You
I
know,
love
who is that?
Well, thank you. That's a really weird set of people you have that we fall into. You heard it on the radio, or someone you knew had it, or
My dad got me into Kiss at the age of 5, and that kind of snowballed. And I kind of went my own way by the time I was a teenager. When I was learning to play bass, the first 2 albums I learned to play in full, and I learned through tabs, was Nevermind the Bollocks, Here's the Sex Pistols, and the first Pink Floyd album, Piper at the Gates of Dawn.
yeah.
So, I mean, I have no rhyme or reason. I just like, if something sounds good to me and sounds
Yeah.
real and sounds authentic.
Yeah, I was actually thinking more in terms of time, not the music. Listening to Kiss and Love Battery is a strange juxtaposition.
Yeah, especially in the late 90s. But it was weird though, because
I guess it's not so strange because you're much younger than me, of course. So
yeah, I'm 30.
yeah, I'm 60.
Wow, you don't look it.
I'll be 61 on July 4th, as a matter of fact. But that actually, it makes better sense now that I think about it that way. So I was listening to Kiss when Kiss was putting out the records.
Yeah.
And there was no Love Battery, or there was no indie type bands. It was just all those straight up. What's the way to put it? It's like it's like that's what we all listened to back then.
Oh yeah. I mean, like, you know, I think I talked with Paul Soldier about when he and Duff saw Zeppelin back in the day when they came through Seattle in like 77, I think it was, or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
I missed that. Although I did get to see some of the good stuff. I saw my first concert was Jethro Tull.
Oh, nice.
The Boston Garden. And it was that same tour where that live album came out of. I forget what they called it. I forget what they call it now, but it was really
what they called it too. But yeah, that's awesome.
Out or something like that. They were really good guitar heavy at that time. This was 1979, you know.
Wow, yeah.
But yeah, but on that subject, if you wanted about me and the concert that changed everything, because I was listening. Speaking of having strange musical situations going on, so I was totally obsessed with Jethro Tull in '79 or so, and that type of thing still.
Yeah.
But we used to go to this club. I'm from New Hampshire, a small town in rural New Hampshire. No one played guitar or anything, but on the coast there was this a nightclub that you could get into when you were 18, and it was easy to sneak into the 20 part where you could get some booze, you know.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So we didn't care who was playing at all, and it was mostly Bob Seger cover bands anyway. But this time, when we were standing out front, we're like, something's weird is going on here. And we get inside, and the crowd looked completely different. People were wearing black lipstick, and there were safety pins and stuff like that. And we're like, this is really weird. Then the band takes the stage, and it was the B-52s on their first US tour.
Oh, wow.
And
just by accident.
I'm getting the bumps right now, just by accident. I hadn't heard anything like it. Actually, what's funny is a friend of mine and I used to exchange record albums for our birthdays, which were the same period in July. I gave him Jethro Tull's Heavy Horses. He gave me Devo's Are We Not Men? Oh, and I was like, what is this? What is this? Right? It was the very next week that I saw the B-52s, and that night changed my life. I said, I'm doing this. Nice. I'm doing this. We actually got to meet them that night too. So
that's even cooler. Yeah.
My first brush with. They weren't famous.
Yeah, exactly.
They were on their first tour.
It's funny because I just saw The Accused.
Yeah.
And
so I was confused by that. That was The Accused. They're back together.
The Accused AD.
Yeah. What does that mean? Just
it's I don't know the whole specifics, but it's the remaining living members of the accused minus one person they don't get along with,
Right. So that's the idea. I was a little confused about that, but it
you
makes
have
sense.
Blaine and Steve and them. It's pretty
Oh,
much,
wow. And you saw that they're touring.
yeah.
Oh, wow.
And
How old are they? God,
they're probably around your age, but
Yeah,
Blaine
yeah.
still is the Tasmanian Devil. But what struck me was how good of a turnout it was for him. But also, like, because I'm friends with Blaine, so I had
Yeah.
known he was coming. I was on the guest list.
Yeah.
And I came like an hour or even more than that early, and they were just sitting at the picnic table chilling. And I'm like getting my albums and stuff signed, like so happy to finally meet them and stuff. Cause, you know,
Yeah.
being a young skater punk that I was,
Yeah.
you know, early age of downloading music, you could get so many skater comps and not even know what's on it.
Yeah.
But quite a few of their songs were on it. And nobody else was really like hanging out with them or anything. They're just sitting at a picnic table. And I'm like, what the hell? You know?
I'm sure they enjoyed it, especially
Oh yeah. The crowd was insane.
Yeah, well, just like you asking me to do this, it like warms an old man's heart. It's like I'm sure they enjoyed speaking with you as well, because it's not like they're pestered every day by people anymore.
Yeah.
Well, maybe they are. There's a lot of people on tour out there. That's not going to, unfortunately, as I said, that's not going to happen for us. Even if I wasn't, didn't have to remain in Seattle for work, I'm pretty sure I couldn't handle it anymore.
Yeah, because it's funny because I pointed to it like a big, like, what you would think they'd be touring in. I'm like, oh, is that your van right there? They're like, no, we got a minivan and we're borrowing it here. I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah. That was fun. When we first hit the road, that was amazing, but it really amounts to driving 300 miles every day, every night, not getting any sleep, arguing about where you eat, and then there's 45 minutes of playing. So
yeah,
it was never great. Now we talked about this before. Yes, Love Battery got along pretty darn well. For one thing, three of us had been roommates anyway for years before, so we certainly knew how to work together. But no one was irritating, no one was a criminal, no one was chasing women around, no one was being an asshole, basically. Is what so we had the best of all possible situations. And
you had a stable band where you knew the temperament of each other and could deal with each other and really just focus on making music.
Yeah, and that we did.
And I have to say, you guys have one of the most unique sounds. And I say that to quite a few bands in this, but it usually applies. I don't think the Screaming Trees sound like the other guys, except.
Yeah. Well,
but you guys especially had there was a heaviness and a fuzziness to your guitars, but it was like the lightness of a cloud.
Oh, well.
Than like a dank, dirty basement mutated,
Yeah.
It was like this, I don't know how to even put it, but it's like one of those, it gives a vibe. There's an oral vibe to it that I can pick up on. Just from the opening chords of Between the Eyes, I always pictured like driving down the desert hungover or something. Or in some kind of way, in some kind of transition of life.
Yeah, maybe we should reshoot that. I thought the video that we did, I don't know if you've seen it, was fine, but I kind of see it the way you do too. It's more like maybe because I've just been watching too much stuff with deserts in it. You've been watching
right.
I've been watching Better Call Saul, I'm thinking that would be really good in there somewhere.
Yeah, but what were all of your guys' influences? Because I'm sure like everybody had like certain bands that made them tick, or were they all the same?
Yeah, it's really hard to say, because we like I said, we're older, so we were listening to Kiss. But before that, the Rolling Stones and the Beatles. I mean, Ron's even older than I am. So, and then we were influenced by the new stuff that was coming out, especially like, say, Fugazi was thrown into the mix a lot,
Oh, yeah.
In fact, you probably don't know, but on that first album that you bought there, what's it called? Before I Crawl. That was called, we used to call that the Fugazi song, because we basically ripped that right off of that the style from them. And Between the Eyes, for example, was your basic mid-tempo 3-chord song, pretty much, with a couple changes. And we were this is during like our first couple of weeks of practicing. We just used to play it straight, and we went out to get some beer, and How Soon Is Now by the Smiths came on the radio with the vibrato tremolo thing.
Yeah, that wow, 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 wow.
Yeah, and Ron went, huh.
That kicks. I can imagine the look on your faces as you played it like that for the first time. Like, oh my God, this is it. You know.
We went right back to the rehearsal place and did it like that.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, that's in the can.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know how it all coalesced. So one of the obviously one of the focal points is the interplay between me and Ron's guitars.
Yeah.
Now, Ron's a pretty straight up standard guitar player, but I studied jazz at Berklee School for a little while.
Okay, I was gonna.
So I remember when I first played.
You're playing some weird looking stuff along. Like, this is so well because I watched the KXP performance before we did this.
Yeah,
and just to refresh my memory, because I'd seen it 100 times before, but I was kind of more focusing on you and what you were doing. And I'm like, oh my God, this is cool. Because I'm not trained or anything.
Yeah, well, the combination.
I try to do similar stuff, when it comes to playing over.
Yeah. Well, the combination makes for a weird kind of thing happening, because it's funny because when I first moved to Seattle, we all lived in a house together. Jason lived in the house already, and Tommy Bonehead from the first album, we all were roommates. And they used to play with different people. What's his name? Jason had been in Skin Yard. Tommy had been in Crisis Party. I don't know if and then later on I was in Crisis Party as well. But that's too story to talk about. But they had some band was practicing in the basement, or not in the basement, in the lower room, and their guitar player couldn't do it any longer. And I had in my room, I used to 4-track and write my own songs and work on my own stuff because I can play all the other instruments as well. And they just came up and knocked on my door and said, do you want to, you should be in a band, is what they said.
You should be in a band.
I said, really? I said, I don't, do I have to be? I said, can I play mixolydian scales and play jazz chords over everything? He said, we don't care what you do. And that's been what I've been allowed to do all this time,
That's awesome.
So I'm playing some of this jazz stuff, but through walls of distortion, and Ron's playing his other stuff, and somehow the twain meets in some kind of weird, interesting way. And of course,
what works is because Rod's
and Jason also, I think, feel good.
Yeah. But what it seems like with Ron, he's a lot like me, where he's the simplistic guy, untrained. And you're more of a trained guy, it sounds like. So you're able to hear what he's playing, and you pretty much know, as long as I'm in the same key as him, it doesn't really matter what I do. So you know exactly what to put over top of something to complement, but not take away. In a way,
there's nothing truer. Another funny thing that's weird about us is Ron has a weird sense of rhythm, sort of like Keith Richards has a weird sense of rhythm. Because for a song like "See Your Mind," for example, he's playing da 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 da. Me and Jason are playing da 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 at the same time. So you get this, because we couldn't make sense out of his rhythm. It was a little bit too weird for us, so we ignored it. and it works. So you just keep doing things that way. I'm always kind of ahead or behind, because Ron's always like right there in this do, and we're always sliding backwards and forward, which gives it what I call a slurry kind of feel sometimes.
Yeah, like a sway.
It's a little disorienting, and a little psychedelic at the same time, even the simplest progressions. So that's my view of it. And you should know, of course, that Ron writes the lion's share of. He'll walk in. He's the quintessential singer-songwriter. He comes in with 3 chords and a powerful vocal verse thing. But we put those things through the ringer. We practice them over and over and backwards and forwards. And we'd say, let's try this from a country and western point of view. Let's try this with a bit of a heartbeat here and that. We try every which way before we settled on the way it was.
So you can actually feel, what could we possibly do with this song and where can we take it?
Yeah. Well, we considered all of our songs to be sort of like, not to take them lightly, but a joke. that has to be has to go over. You have to tell this joke, and it has to have the perfect timing, and the punchline has to be right in the right spot. And so we tried to make sure all of our stuff had a narrative structure. Everyone does to some degree, of course.
Yeah.
But we were really conscious of like springing traps on people and changing up the rhythms, in weird ways, like in Out of Focus, for example.
Yeah.
It just drones at the end. We didn't even keep playing the regular verse. We just droned in the key of B. B suspended fourth, actually. And of course, a lot of things like that is the result of I'm playing like a B suspended fourth chord,
Yeah.
which is not typical. It means you have a bunch of strings that are open that are droning through the entire progression.
Yeah. I like to do that. I do like weird arpeggios too, where like it'll be the top 3 strings I'm fretting, but I'll let the 2 underneath ring for extra effect with reverb.
Exactly.
And it sounds fucking stunning.
Yeah, a lot of people were onto that, but it never fails to please.
Yeah.
And I kind of learned that through the Miles Davis.
It can help convey a mood too.
Yeah. Well, we always like to try to find one note that rings all the way through the entire song, and you can drill on it and expand on it too. So that was kind of our
almost like a meditative type thing.
Yeah.
You're playing it, you go to that different place.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
What's funny is now, as I just told you, I don't know if this was on the tape before or not, but our first gig is actually signed in the books. It's going to be at Easy Street Records in West Seattle on October the 1st. And so now all of a sudden I realize I have to go back and think about these songs in a more technical way again.
Yeah.
I don't usually forget about them, but I end up being the band leader because even Ron doesn't remember how the songs go sometimes. So I kind of have to I just realized the other night that I have to start my kind of study of all the
Are you
things.
guys going to be playing the full record, or are you going to let it be a surprise?
Now, we did that last time in 2018, so we haven't discussed that yet. I don't know what would be prudent, actually. We probably behoove us to do that again. Just for one thing, it looks like we're not going to have Jason Finn playing drums. I don't know, not sure right now. He's had some difficulties lately. And he hasn't played since that 2018 show, it turns out.
Oh, wow.
So, but the good news is Jim will be playing with us. Jim Tillman will be playing with us again. And we found a young drummer, half our age. And that's what, is the key. And he's really eager. But what it means is we'll probably have to do some rigorous rehearsals. Because for the 2018 rehearsals, we rehearsed like twice. We didn't have to rehearse at all. And we played better than we ever had. But
well, it's probably something like muscle memory for this point. If you guys played it till you were cross-eyed and played it in so many different styles.
It was weird. It fell together. It's, because people ask us to do these things, we haven't really pursued it. And so when we first got that first rehearsal and we started playing Out of Focus, and it just fell right together. It's like, oh, there's a reason why we're good. There's a reason why we have chemistry. Something's going on here that's more than the sum of its parts, much more. And I'm pretty sure we can replicate that with another drummer too. I mean, it's not like we haven't played with other drummers before.
Well, yeah.
Like Musburger. I mean, we've had more drummers, almost as many as the Fastbacks. We even had Greg Gilmore even played drums with us one time.
You had as many as the Fastbacks. That's saying something.
Yeah, well, not only Greg Gilmore, but Mike Musburger from the Fastbacks, Ben London from Sky Cries Mary.
Wow.
Ben Ireland from Sky Cries Mary. Sorry, Ben. So we've been able to pull it off before. I'm sure it's going to be fine. So and we're probably going to do another KEXP live room show and a couple other shows. Probably
that's cool.
Portland, maybe San Francisco. We'll see if that happens.
I'll have to see if I could snag a copy of that reissue vinyl and send it to you to sign it.
I don't know why we're not supposed to say anything. I'm going to say it anyway. There is going to be a pre-order opening up in July.
Oh, okay, cool.
But I'll give you one.
Right.
I mean,
that's totally up to you.
I mean,
I would appreciate that.
We'll get you signed one.
Awesome. Thank you.
It's exciting though, because Jackpot already gave us a lot of money as an advance. We never got any money from Sub Pop.
That's crazy. Now,
we still owe them money, I think.
Yeah, not the time jump here, but what year did Love Battery officially start then?
Well, now you're asking an old guy complex questions. Now, of course, the Between the Eyes single came out first.
Okay.
And that had Easter on the other side. I think that was early 1989. So and that came relatively quickly. I think it was only 6 months between the time that we started playing together and that we were able to put out a record.
Oh,
And
wow.
actually, that was very exciting. So we, right after we discovered the tremolo effect for Between the Eyes, we went in to the studio to record with Jack and Dino. Jack was really not that much of a big deal back then. Reciprocal we went to Reciprocal simply because it was one of the cheapest places in town. I think we each paid $40.
Wow.
To record that, and so then we started playing shows, and we were popular in Seattle right off the bat. The very first show we played, there was a line down the block, and Poneman walked up and said, "You guys want to put out a single?" And we said, "Okay." And then the single came out, and then on the basis of that single, it was just a single at this time. Peter Davis from Minneapolis, he owned a thing called Creature Booking, and he did Helmet and L7 and all these amphetamine reptile bands. Well, actually closer to what we did in a way. And
I would say so.
Yeah, more than Sub Pop, because Sub Pop was kind of monolithic in its way. Tad, Nirvana, and
So, there was definitely more of an ambient, almost stoner-esque vibe, and I don't mean that in a bad way in any way to L7 and those bands.
But no, we're big. We were huge stoners, huge.
Oh yeah, but I mean, as far as like musical style, that stoner psychedelic kind of vibe, you know what I mean.
Well, there was more variety over at Amphetamine.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's another show I'll get to in a minute. But so basically, he loved the single, and Sub Pop was willing to let us have a van, and Peter Davis was able to get us $100 a night and a case of beer, and we went on our first tour. And no one was there. No one came. But
you still got the $100 and a case of beer,
right? And we got to open and see a bunch of cool bands too. But but we got to work on our songs during that time for what became the first full album. And the other thing that was interesting about that was no one came to the shows, but the bartenders and waitresses would be standing on the tables screaming and clapping.
Wow, and that never happens.
And never happens. One thing, they're not getting paid that night, and number two, they're the most jaded people in the world because
exactly
every band in the world, and they would tell their friends, and so the next time we came through, the places were packed. And it felt, and I mean, there's nothing like being in a band where everybody loves you.
Yeah, especially coming into what I mean, you guys didn't really fit in the scene, but I can see where you shared similar aesthetics, musically wise.
Yeah,
you did have some similarities.
It's funny. Yeah. You know what? Can you possibly pause this? It's just
yes.
Yes. No, not yet. Here's a funny thing. I'm sitting here in my place. I gotta raise the dumpsters in my apartment building here. Well, where'd he go? Yeah, this is an off story, but he's a crazy guy. He's absolutely insane, but he's the nicest guy in the world. But he gets into the dumpsters and he throws everything out of it because he thinks there's silver dollars in the bottom. But if you catch him, he'll put everything back. But if you don't catch him, he'll make the worst mess in the world. So I have to keep an eye on him for a second. Anyway, what was also cool that was the first tour. But then on the subsequent tours, Peter Davis kept booking us still, and he would book us with Helmet and L7, and we'd shift around. So those are way different bands, but it was so great because not only were they all just the most terrific people. Helmet was really funny because we didn't know what to expect from them, especially the first time.
Yeah,
because their music is brutal, right?
Yeah,
but it's really cool. So we thought we were going to meet these Nazi punks when we first met up with them in Tempe, Arizona, and of course they're jazz heads who just figured out how to tune their guitars so they could play them with one finger.
The same thing happened to me with meeting Mike IX from I Hate God. He's a Facebook friend, and I'm gonna finally see him in October. And their music, like you said, is so intense and heavy and angry, and he's just up there, but he's one of the sweetest people I know.
Yeah, well, that's like, wait a minute, this guy's not up there. So that's one of the times we played in San Francisco. We played at a big place called the Kennel Club, I think, and we were playing. It was a Sub Pop Lame Fest, so you had a whole bunch of Sub Pop
Okay,
bands.
yeah.
And we were in the backstage talking. But a lot of at this point, a lot of these Sub Pop bands are coming from out of Seattle. So we're having the greatest conversation with this erudite, gentlemanly guy, just most mild mannered and soft spoken person. And then they said, it's time for you to play. He goes, well, I bid you do. I'll talk to you later. And he hits the stage. Turns out it was Blag from what's that band? The Dwarves.
Oh wow. Yep. Well, I mean, Lord Zippy Blade's really a sweetheart, but on stage, he's a freaking. He's.
That's what it's like a lot. It's a lot of show. There's a lot of show out there, but you'll find, and you've probably found this by interviewing a lot of people. Some of these rock people are some of the most intelligent, sweet people that you'll ever meet.
Oh yeah, and I've learned if you just treat them like normal people.
Yeah.
Mention you're a fan, you're usually fine. They're just like you and me.
Yeah, I've had some times before I ever got to be anything. I worked in a really cool nightclub in Dallas, Texas that was mostly rhythm and blues. And in Texas, rhythm and blues clubs are like, wow, So a lot of mid-level people would be in there, like Don McLean was in there, Crenshaw, people like that. And I was the green room guy. They had an RV parked out in the back that they served as a green room. So I got to meet a lot of like these.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
A lot of these actual rock stars who probably had come down just a little bit since their big days in the late 70s or early 70s. And so I was behind the bar at one point, and in walks Robert Plant and Phil Collins. And they're like,
oh, wow.
what time does the band start? And I said, well, around 9:00, and they said, okay, is there a good place to get something to eat? And I said, okay, right across the street is a really great place. And so I finished setting up the bar and I go over there and they're like, hey, how's it going? And I'm like, all right. And they're like, come on over, join us. So I got to sit down and have lunch with Robert Plant and Phil Collins. And Robert Plant was the sweetest guy in the world. Phil Collins was a dick, but I was in the middle of my punk rock phase, and they were like, Led Zeppelin was pretty long gone right there. Actually, as it turns out, they were in town to rehearse for one of those Live Aid things, or with Phil Collins on drums.
Okay,
that's what they were doing. But I was sort of like, dude, you're a dinosaur, man. In so many words, and he just laughed. He just thought that was so funny. But he was really, really nice. But well, let's not get onto that. But since then, for some reason, I've met like everybody from Bruce Springsteen, everyone but the Stones and the Beatles as I end up meeting. But it's been nice.
That's cool. Yeah. And I'm sure it feels really surreal at times to be in the position you are.
Yeah.
So I gotta add. Well, no, that's on Between the Eyes. So we'll get to that record then, because you did the EP. I'm mentioning the record. So when you did the second tour, was that before or after you did Dayglow?
See, now these questions are going to get tough. Because logistically speaking, it's really hard to tell. Because we toured so much. I know when we recorded things. I don't know when we were on tour constantly, basically.
Okay.
They never ended. So like I remember we did 3 songs. We did Out of Focus, we did 23 Modern Stories, and we did See Your Mind in the first Dayglow session. Okay. Then we went on a long tour. Where we worked on the other songs that we didn't record. Then when we came back from that tour, then we recorded the rest. Okay. So Dayglow came out in '92. So that means we recorded the first part of that record, in '91. So that must have been. I mean, there was just so many tours. It's just hard to say. They just all sort of blended into one because we were never home for more than a month. So it all seemed like an extension of one tour. Gotcha. And that went on for 10 years.
Wow.
What's that? Oh, it's weird. He passed me by this time. Anyway. Yeah. So that's like, I wish I could answer that question a little bit better. But like I said, I have a better grasp on that. Now, Far Gone, the third album, we were actually in one place for a little bit while we were in New York City.
Oh wow, that's cool.
Yeah, we were recorded in New York City. That was a thrill because we got to stay there for.
Oh wow. I live in New York State and I'm so far away from the city. It's like something I'd have to plan like a vacation for.
Yeah, Buffalo. You're Buffalo, right?
Yeah, right up near Buffalo. So I'm like
Yeah.
7 or 8 hours from New York
Yeah,
City.
I know the distances. Well, see, I'm from New Hampshire, so it's
Okay, so,
same,
so
same place.
yeah,
Pretty
lots
much.
of trees.
Yeah, yeah. And awful winters. Lots of trees.
You
Lots of
said that
spur-
this area reminds them of Seattle a lot up here near Buffalo.
yeah, except for we got big pointy mountains too. Crazy pointy mountains.
Yeah,
But
we don't have that, but
yeah.
we got
So
hills.
I ended up being around the Boston, not the Boston scene. Actually, I went to college in the mountains of New Hampshire, which is further north, up sort of like those same kinds of mountains.
That's wild.
There, which was nice. It's a nice area. It really is. But I I didn't get to go to New York very often, so it was a thrill. Well, I went to New York when I was 6 weeks old for the first time, but it was a thrill to be able to record there because then you can kind of actually, we were there for 6 weeks. You can finally feel like, you feel like a New
Probably
Yorker
gave the
for,
record a
for a
different
minute.
vibe
Yeah.
then.
Hang out in the What's that?
It probably gave the record a different vibe then.
We were talking earlier about re-releases. So we recorded Far Gone. That's the record we were recording there. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's got some funny noises in there.
Yeah, I haven't, I don't know if I've heard that because I think I could think the last one I heard was Confusion on Go Go.
That's the last one, but you don't know the story of Far Gone, which it was produced by my hero, Michael Beinhorn.
Oh wow!
But he and we put a lot of time into pre-production, and as I said, we recorded in New York City, and it certainly has some grit, New York City grit to it. We love the songs to death that we did it, but the mix, none of us like it. We all have a hard time even listening to it at all.
That might be why I have a hard time finding it on anything.
It's on Sub Pop, but I don't know what was going on, where we didn't have time to put into mixing it. We just assumed that Beinhorn would do a better, well, see, I shouldn't say this. We thought he would do a better job of mixing it. I mean, I think once again, it's no secret that it's not mixed. Can't get into too much trouble here. But the hope has always been that Sub Pop would re-release that. And they have talked about it. And Jack Endino is more than willing to do it. So that's next up for Love Batteries, to get that done, because we think that those are the albums on that album are actually our best. And in fact, before we stopped playing live on a more regular basis, our set was still mostly Far Gone.
Wow.
With the hits from the earlier two, but
yeah.
You can stream it, you don't have to buy it, but that's so where if Sub Pop doesn't do it, it looks like maybe we can get Jackpot to do it, because
I was gonna say, is there a decent buzz for this re-release?
Oh, there already is. It's kind of nutty, actually. Everyone wants to pre-order it already, and for some reason they don't want us to tell anyone when the pre-order starts. Maybe that's their own thing. I don't know,
but
yeah, so maybe they'll do it. I guess that's what they do is, Jack, I don't know if you're aware of them, but this is what they do. They find records to re-release.
Oh, nice.
And they seem to be well heeled. As I said, they already sent us around a round of checks, and we're 50-50 on the sales. 50-50.
Wild. You're getting a good deal.
We're gonna make some money. Not that was ever why we got it. Obviously it's not why we got into the biz. I mean, all I ever wanted to do was be able to walk into a record store and see a record there that I had done, and I got to do that. I mean, I remember the first time that
at the end of the day.
What's that?
You just wanted to play music at the end of the day.
Yeah. And I remember the first time that I put back when we had 45, and I heard that my guitar feeding back. I went, I'm done. I've made it. I've made it to the big time.
My feedback. That's my feedback.
Yeah, that's me. It still gives me chills. I don't know how I did that.
That's one thing I learned to love through you guys and Nirvana and stuff like that, is the actual love of the sound of feedback. You're probably not supposed to, but I do, because for some reason that gives an authenticity to what you're listening to. It tells you that this isn't fake.
I guess you could say that. I kind of stumbled into it because that Fender Mustang sang is just so troubly and wide open.
Oh yeah.
It cannot not feedback. So I learned how to make it into my shtick, because for one thing, Ron is very loud. We're a loud band, and that's okay. But Ron is a hell of a guitar player.
Yeah.
And in those beginning days, I was like, how do I cut through this? And so that's why I learned how to wield the feedback in a way to control it and to
Control
use it.
feedback.
And
Yeah.
that's why I started playing the slide too.
That. Oh wow. Yeah.
Because
Okay,
of like,
that makes sense. That completely makes sense. I mean, not only did it sound fucking amazing, you know, because when you said that's why I started playing the slide, I heard those opening notes, you know, out of focus.
yeah, and I play in a weird way. I play in standard tuning, so so I still play regular guitar, which is really hard because you have to block certain strings or it will sound terrible. But I learned how to do that too. So
yeah,
so
I mean, that's just cool and funny how, like, once you said that, it connected everything together and made sense. So
yeah.
Dayglow comes out. What was the reception as far as like to the record? Was it well received by your peers and stuff? I know you didn't see much money, but was it selling decently?
Peers, yes. Critics, yes. Not that the peers. I mean, when I announced that it's being released, people like the Screaming Trees guys and all those people all freak out about that.
Well, yeah, Gary Lee Conner will never not mention. I've interviewed him like 3 or 4 times in my career, just because he's so great to talk to. And I enjoy his company.
Yeah.
But he's told the story of you guys playing his wedding and how that you guys are like one of his favorite bands.
Yeah.
You know.
That was really weird. We were in the middle of a tour, coast as a matter of fact, and he flew us back, like to buy all those tickets. He flew us back. We were just like, it was like any normal wedding that you'd expect. There weren't a bunch of rock stars there. There was just Lanigan, and a couple other people. And they're like, well, you really want us to do this? Uh-oh, you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Oh, you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. The internet connection sometimes is unstable. Yeah, so it's okay. It's probably on my end.
So that was, as I told him many times, that was the scariest performance I've ever done, because it was just like a regular wedding. There were all these old people there and children running around with bows in their hair. It was on a ferry, actually.
Oh wow, that's cool.
That was docked. Yeah, and the only people that were there like I said, it was just Lanigan was there. Kurt Danielson might have been there from Tad, but that was it for like this people from the music scene. It was because he has a huge family, as you probably know too.
Yeah.
Even his own immediate family is huge. I've had such a great time with him. I don't know if you heard that story, but we've always been really close to them. And I got to see them at Lollapalooza when they were on that. They were like, it was the year, I don't know, it was probably 92, 93, maybe later than that. They were on tour with Devo and Metallica and and the Ramones. And so we backstage, we were hanging out, and they had, I don't know if you've been to one of these big shows, but everyone has their own like kind of pavilion, And so I was hanging out in theirs with his whole family, his mother, his father, a bunch of his kids, talked to his parents a long time. It was really hot, and I was drinking whiskey out of a pint glass, and I lost it. I passed out underneath the trailer, and I missed their show, and I also missed the Ramones, who were right after them. And then so I went with Dan Peters, and Dan Peters drags me out from under the trailer and says, "God damn it, Kevin, you are not gonna miss Devo." And so, and I got it together, and we were backstage. Actually, we were on the stage right next to they set up with the drummer to the left, stage left.
Okay.
And we were standing right behind the drummer. It was one of the best shows I've ever seen in my life.
Well, yeah, you're right behind the drummer. What a view.
But because Devo was playing with all these metal bands, they really upped they've been a great guitar band since day one, but they
Yeah.
cranked the amp. So
I'm sure.
so it was Dio like just like
On
balls out.
steroids.
They were all playing guitar. I don't think they even bothered with the synthesizer this time. They were all playing.
Well, damn.
It was really wonderful.
So with recording,
But I miss the Ramones.
yeah, we all miss the Ramones actually. But did you take any different attempt or approaches to recording Between the Eyes as compared to Dayglow, or was it pretty much the same process?
No, I think the main thing that changed was the studio.
Okay.
Otherwise, no. And this was Reciprocal has its thing, but Egg Studio, I forget why we went in there, why we were impressed with somebody's work that was in there. But Egg was a really tiny studio that had this really special board. That somebody had used, some huge band. As you probably know, studios have reasons why they're good and bad, just myriad reasons, some of whatever parts they have. So I would say that a lot of that sound, I mean, I don't think we were playing much different or using any kind of different equipment really than from Between the Eyes. I did get better at, because in my early stage, well, Between the Eyes, I was using all the same stuff. But I did settle in with a certain type of equipment and pedals and stuff. So my sound got a little bit more stable and more thoughtful. But I do think that it had something to do with studios.
Yeah,
also there's a lot of on that record, we're all so squished together that there's a whole lot of bleed, and of course you don't want to have that.
I was going to ask if that was
but
intentional or if that was just a happy accident, because that record has such a great vibe that I adore to this day.
Yeah, well, I think that because you have these people who I don't try to champion being, but sometimes certain equipment sounds turned all the way. That's just the way like my Marshall works. It's just a 50 watt, but if you have to play it all the way up, or it's too thin. And we try to use baffles, but the room was so small. It was just, and this is when the engineers will usually tell you, okay, you guys, we don't want bleed, so everyone's gonna have to turn down a little bit. Drummer, you have to play a little quieter. Conrad Uno did not take that approach. He wanted just the band as it was. We've been touring.
So you were tight.
Forever, so we were super tight. A day for dub. My feedback is filling the room, and it's going into every single microphone, and shaking drum heads and stuff like that.
I love it.
So that's part of it, and it's not just for proximity. It's just something about that studio.
Well, each studio has its own vibe.
Yeah,
each studio I think is built differently to get different sounds to begin with, and it depends on what equipment they have to record with too. But really, a lot of it comes down to the vibe that the studio gives to the band. That helps create the record in a way.
And that's the case with Dayglow. It really could not have gone better. People talk about that all the time. It's just so well done. And so it was kind of unsettling in its way to have it remastered, because it was remastered for this reissue, which Jack and did. We didn't think maybe it needed to be. We just want to leave it the way it was. But Jack pointed out that mix was done so quickly on the fly that there are some songs, for example, where because of the frequency problems, the cymbals just disappeared into the guitars, which happened, a common thing.
So it's not necessarily a remaster in a sense. It's more of like, this is what we can enhance with technology from this.
Well, technically, I'm not an audiophile. Technically, I'm not completely sure even what mastering really is. But
yeah, me neither. So,
but this was a full-on remaster, and it took months, many months, and we sent the pressings back twice.
Damn.
Yeah. So Jack put a lot of time. Jack is, as you can imagine, is one of the busiest people in the business. And not only that, he's working on Sky Pride's Mary record with us,
Yeah.
So I get to see Jack. What's fun is I saw Jack at the beginning when I started playing, and now I see him. I mean, he's probably texting me right now because we're sending roughs back and forth between us right now, because I have a 24-track studio across the alley from where I live.
Oh, nice.
And as we were speaking about pandemic before, we have found ways where I can record stuff and they can send it. I can send it to Jack. He's at the place called the Sound House now, and he can sync it up with the master band track. So it's really thrilling to be able to record. Because as you know, being in a recording studio is very fun, but sometimes it's a little unnerving because, especially if you're not recording with a full band, and people are in the control room, and you're out there, and they're going, okay,
and they're watching you like a lab rat behind.
Yeah. Oh, that's the word I'm looking for. And no matter, I get plowed before I play, so to take the edge off. That's just how it is for me. That's how it works for me, and it does help, but it's still like so what's really nice to know is, like, we went into the studio and did some band tracks, and then, but I can take that and go into my studio, make myself comfortable as possible, get the right combination of everything, be in my own studio, and on my 24 track, I'll have the band track on a stereo mix. That gives me like 23 takes to try, I'll send all the ones that I do, and then Jack will listen to them and figure out where he wants them, what ones work best, just like I was in the studio in person.
Yeah,
so it works out
wild,
great.
isn't it?
Yeah, there's no
I'm making a folk punk record right now using Audacity on this very same laptop.
Audacity,
equipment I'm talking to you on.
Yeah.
Minus a guitar and amp and my voice, and I can add as many tracks as I want. I don't, because minimalism, I don't need a lot.
Yeah, that's the tough part.
But like, a lead in a rhythm track, and I love it. I can do it in the comfort of my own home, on my own time, on my own schedule.
Yeah. What's cool is the technology has improved. I mean, I used to do that with my little Tascam 4 tracks before, but those you couldn't really. You could now. You could probably sell it. What's that?
All of my band members live in different states. None of us live in the same state.
So you've been used to this.
Without technology, we couldn't do what we're doing.
Yeah, well, we couldn't do that before, but now we can, and there's no reason not to. Exactly. I still will always want to go in and do if possible, when you go to the studio, do a full band thing, because that's a different energy thing there too.
Doing a record live.
Back to Love Battery again. Before that technology existed, I was terrified, as I said, to have to go back and redo a lead with everyone, the whole band standing in there trying to decide whether or not my lead is any good, right?
Yeah.
So when you go to the studio back in the old days, they were always trying to get just the drums, because they assumed that everyone was going to overdub everything. And I go, hello, you make sure you record this, because this is going to be my track, okay? and so I would on up to the end on all that Love Battery stuff. My main guitar track is always recorded along with the drum track, the keeper drum track.
Done live.
Yeah, because I didn't want to go back. So because I practiced my ass off. Those parts that I came up with, they're not improvised at all. I worked them out and worked them over and over again. They're not really.
They fit perfectly over top Ron's, rudimentary power chording.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
Like it really is the perfect complement, because you're not playing exactly what he is. You're complementing it.
It's amazing that people do that. You ever see that? It's so weird. You see two guitars in one band, they're always playing like pretty much the same thing until they hit the chorus, and then one guy keeps playing the chorus and the other guy plays the lead. It's like, what the heck is that?
What's the point of having two guitar players?
Yeah.
I have a bass player that does that.
Right, exactly.
Plays doesn't play along to what I'm playing, but harmonizes,
Yeah.
So I don't see why guitarists would do that. I don't record the same, rhythm track when I'm recording a lead track over top. I don't play the same thing I played for a rhythm track. So I don't even do that when I'm playing with myself.
Yeah, or at least play a different, even if you're playing the same chord, play a different voicing of it. Play the A here, that's all you have to. Just something
note instead of chugging it, or you
don't need two guys playing bar chords anymore, because you just turn up your fuzz and and turn up your amp. So the one person playing, that's all. You don't need two people to double it. I mean, you can every once in a while. And it
works better in a live situation to make it sound more powerful. I get that, but when you're in the studio recording, you can do different things.
Yeah, you just double it.
Hit
the button that says okay.
Yep, and boom, there you go.
Yeah.
So, Confusion All Go Go was the last.
Yeah.
So then So Far Gone was the one before that?
Yes.
And that was
No.
after
No.
Between the Eyes.
Before that was Straight Free Ticket.
Okay.
That was the major label one.
Okay.
Which
Oh,
is
which major label did you get signed to? I missed on that.
Hologram.
Polygram.
It's not streamed, unfortunately. We don't know how to figure that out, how to do that. It's a great record. You should do whatever you can to, you can buy it anywhere, but it's
Okay.
oh, it's terrific. It costs like $300,000 to make. All of our recording expertise came to the fore on that one.
Okay, yeah, I'll have to hunt that one down. I don't know
Yeah,
why I
well,
have.
just all you have to do, just go to YouTube and go to listen to the title song from not the title song, but the song called Fuzz Factory.
Okay, yeah.
Look that up when we're done
Okay.
here. And,
I've heard that one then. Yeah.
yeah, so that's from that album.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. Okay.
That album was insane. We had a $300,000 budget. We had a wall of amps and cabinets. We had
Nice.
all our rock star friends brought their favorite guitars in so that we could sample them. This was a big deal, and it came out really great. But I don't think Atlas Polygram was a subsidiary of Polygram. I don't think that they had as much influence within A&M Records as they thought they did. So once something happened to Sub Pop happened to us there, we didn't get promoted. They all thought it was going to go straight to the top, but they didn't put any money in promotion. They did put a lot of money into the album recording itself. I can't say enough about that. They also did something that was insane. So we were signed for two records with them, but the record didn't sell very well. So eventually they decided to drop us.
Oh,
but they gave us $50,000 severance, which we were able to live off, pay our rent and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
For 6 months. That's what
figure something out.
And they gave us the songs we had recorded for the second album for free.
Wow.
For free.
I've
Now,
never heard of a major label doing that for anybody.
No, all our other friends owed the money that they didn't sell, and they kept their masters of the music they made. That's what happened to everybody else. These guys gave us money. They were so sad. They were so sorry. They believed in us so much. They thought we were like the best band ever. They gave us those songs, 22 songs in all, and that became Confusion and Go-Go.
Okay.
So that was the Confusion Go Go, and Daniel House from CC picked that up. They gave it to him for free.
I interviewed him with Paul Soldier for 10 Minute Mornings release recently too, when they said that This Could Be Heaven. Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I might write that guy a letter again today. And when we got dropped, they were so sorry, and the other guys were like, oh, and I was like, I walked up to him and shook his hand and said, "Thank you for putting our record out, man. Thank you.
Yeah,
you did the best you could."
I mean, at the end of the day, at least you get to say, I put out a major label record.
Yeah. So check that out.
I will find the full album.
I'd send you one, but I don't even have a copy. It's just on my computer.
Okay. So, band was together for 10 years.
Yeah. So weird. Yeah.
So for 10 years, you were at this, and it seems like the moment you got any kind of leg up, it was kicked out from underneath you. Is that part of the reason why you split?
Well, we never really split so much. Well, I mean,
or did you become inactive?
Yeah, I guess we could be. There was no conscious effort to become inactive. I mean, when the whole thing collapsed and we ended up coming back home, we toured a little bit on Confusion a Go-Go, but when we came back, I mean, the demand wasn't great enough. I mean, I'm trying to think now, actually, what happened. I mean, there were some problems. For one thing, Ron has been, for like, I don't know how long, it's over a dozen years now that he's been totally clean and sober.
Okay.
But he was far
from that.
Far from that. And the last tour that we did, it was everything. He was doing everything. So that was a factor. We were all kind of tired of that, dealing with that.
Well, yeah, you can't be a functional band when, your main singer, songwriter of the group's comatose.
Yeah, it was bad.
I guess that's respectful, isn't it? I mean,
yeah. I mean, you were so right. I mean, we were on our way to Austin for what's that, South by Southwest. We had been kind of dying down a little bit, but Confusion a Go-Go has got us doing a little bit better. And that would have been a really good experience. But halfway down, Ron found his way into a Mexican pharmacy and got a bunch of pills. And the bass player Tommy Bonehead had come back and was playing bass for us at this time.
Wow.
And he the reason why he quit Crisis Party way back when was because he couldn't take junkies anymore.
Yeah.
And I filled in for him just to record the record, the Crisis Party record, but he couldn't take Ron doing this. And he basically said, I'm going home.
Wow.
Yeah, I forgot all about that actually.
Yeah.
So there was an end. There was an end. He said, I'm just going back home. And then we were all pretty much done with Ron.
I'm sorry I may have brought up a painful memory without.
No, it's nice to be able to piece these things together. But that was awful because we were doing well, we were getting crowds, and Ron just went off the deep end. And
what year was this, just to give me some context?
This was probably 96.
Okay, so if you were getting traction around that time, that's actually pretty good considering.
Yeah, that's why it's so sad. That's why it's so sad, actually.
Yeah, because
we're getting the radio airplay and everything like that, and I begged Tommy, let's just make it to South by Southwest, play the show. I mean, because I think we only had like 2 more shows. I think we had like Los Angeles, and then we're going to do a straight shot to Texas. I was like, let's just play these last 2 shows. Why turn around in San Francisco? San Francisco's pretty much home. And his name's Tommy Bonehead. I mean,
yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, 2 more shows, and then we sit down and talk with him. And take some time off, get him better.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. That probably would have been a better idea, but I can understand it.
Yeah.
I can understand if you've been in enough bands with that certain kind of thing going on, that being a literal, no, that's a line. I can understand and respect that to a degree.
Yeah, and actually I felt the same way at the time. I was really upset, but I could definitely understand because I wanted to make a living in music, and it looked like we're getting offered a shot. I mean, we've had some travails. You don't want to complain. As I said, I'm so happy that we've ever had anyone put out our records, but I don't know if you know the other story that happened to us is that Far Gone was supposed to be our 3rd album for Sub Pop, which would have fulfilled our contractual obligation. Okay. So we had signed with Polygram, and we're like, yay, we're on the way to the top. We're on our way to the top. And then Sub Pop sued us.
Oh my God.
They claimed that we had not delivered 3 albums to them because they claimed that Between the Eyes was in fact an EP and not an album. Now, that's what they're supposed to do. They're a record company. Our lawyer was supposed to have made sure that wasn't happening. So she failed us. Because as a matter of fact, we did deliver 3 albums because I don't know if you remember, but there's the Love Battery EP, which wasn't put out by Sub Pop. That's actually put out by Tupelo. But then later, they added 3 songs to that for the first Love Battery EP. And so, LP. So we did, in fact, but what they knew was by the time we could fight that in court, a band is like a shark. It has to keep moving forward. So they knew that if we took time to battle them about that, we'd be gone. So that was smart of them. And I still say don't blame them at all for doing that. That's because what they wanted was extra money from our new company, from Polygram, and 2 points on the album, which they got.
Dang.
But it was a nightmare. I've never been.
It seems like a really crappy way to go about things.
It is, but that's what you have to expect, and that's why you hire these it was an LA entertainment attorney, and she just didn't know her stuff.
She dropped the ball.
And on top of that album Far Gone, because of what we discussed earlier, because it was mixed so badly, did not sell. So it did not further our career, and nobody got paid. And it was like a big boom right after Dayglow. And it took a lot of wind right out of the sails, and then that's what kind of could probably contribute to Ron getting a little bit more loose than over time.
I can sort of imagine that because you start a band off and you start doing well, and I don't know if you're friends with someone, I would feel some type of way if a friend did something like that to me.
Yeah, you could say that, couldn't you? But maybe that's how you can just sit back behind your lawyer. They could always say, "Oh, well, our lawyers did that. Why didn't your lawyer, do know better?"
Yeah.
But you're right.
At the end of the day, they initiated their
Well,
Funny.
as they've always said, they said it's not our fault that someone doesn't become a rock star. They actually Poneman said that, as I recall, directly into response to Ron in an interview, telling you exactly what I'm telling you now.
Wow.
And they asked him about it, and he said, "Well, it's not my responsibility to make someone a rock star." That's what he said. But ironically, Jonathan Poneman is actually is a fan of the band's music, where Pavitt made it clear that he's just not. That's just not. Low Battery's just not his thing. He was always on. He's always been honest. So that I can say.
Yeah.
About him.
Well, at least there's that. You know,
There's
at least they're honest.
These guys weren't my friends.
Yeah.
They were not my friends. They didn't know what to make of me.
So, I mean, what did you do then within that gap of time? Did you quote unquote get a haircut and a real job, or?
Well, yeah. Well, see, this is the thing. When it all collapsed, I got home and my wife said, "It's time to have the babies." I said, "I'm not going to work." Well, my wife had a good job. At that time, she was a teacher. Then she became a principal. And then at that time, our apartment building got sold, and we had the babies, and we decided that I'll be the stay-at-home father. That's a job.
Nice.
We were like, well, why pay $1,800 a month to put your kids? I still don't understand why people do that. To put your kid in daycare when you can just one of you can just stay home. So I stayed home, and it was the great. Now my kids are like terrific. They're living in downtown Chicago, making films. Anyway, I wore one here, walked around with the other one, and became an apartment property manager. So like our building got sold right at the same time, and the new owner came up and knocked on my door and said, "I heard you got a few carpentry skills, and you're trustworthy." And I said, They said, "Do you want to manage this building?" I said, "Fuck no." And then my wife nudges me. She says, "You need to get a job." And so I did, and then I actually worked out just fine. It's this beautiful building that I'm still sitting across the alley from. I ended up buying a condo years later across from it. But it's this charmed building where a lot of musicians ended up living, and bartenders,
cool.
and it just now it's all Amazon people, of course. It's like a gold mine for me. And I ended up buying a condo across the alley from it. And then they built another building. So anyway, that's what I did. I raised, basically, that was a small job. At the time, it was only a 14-unit building that no one moved out of. So it was just a small job. And I got to be a dad, just walk around all day with my kids, take them to the library, take them to the museum, take them to the beach, take them to the park every single day, and writing music and still,
Yeah.
And now all that stuff, because that building that when I ended up managing it, I found a room in the basement that contained the old boiler, and the owner let me clean it out and turn it into a recording studio. So I've had a recording studio down there for 25
Oh my God,
years.
that's so cool.
It can't be better. It can't be better. And then my wife, she was a principal for a while, but then she became the executive director of schools for Seattle.
Ooh.
So she's making coin. And a beautiful blonde girl from Texas a swimsuit model from Texas who picked me up in a bar before I got famous. Now she's the superintendent of the neighboring school district. Actually, it's amazing.
Wild.
So it really couldn't have been better. I had all this time. I got a wife who supports my artistic endeavors, but then now I'm making pretty good money doing this job. But as I just told you before, the catch is I can't leave. I have to always be around in case something happens.
Naturally so. Respect to you for not shirking on your responsibilities.
Well, thank you.
The
best part is that the thing about being in my line of business, though, is like I work for a guy. It's just one guy who's actually younger than me, and I've worked for him for over 30 years now. And he's a money-grubbing capitalist pig, but he's honest and he doesn't discriminate. So as long and he doesn't do any weird stuff. Like, so if you do everything right, you get all your money back. Everything. He doesn't pull garbage landlord crap.
Yeah, he's not a scumbag.
Yeah, so it's and you know what my spiel is. It's also nice to be able to put people into homes where they're happy. I have like 150 tenants, and they're all happy. They're all like, "Oh, I love where I live." So it feels like there's worse things that I could be doing. The best part is I get to keep rock star hours. Yes. I wake up at 11 o'clock, go to bed at 3.
I work night shift, so that's kind of the same thing, right? Up all night, sleep all day was one of the hair metal anthems, I think.
Yeah. And now the kids are gone. So now it's like, and my wife and I looked at each other like, wow, we still like each other. This is awesome. And she's so hot, and it's like now we have this swank condo that has actually doubled in price because Seattle's crazy.
Yeah.
So we're doing okay, actually.
You and your wife sound like me at mine, because I came out as trans and mine still loves me. So
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Well, I'm still friends with all my exes. We're still all great. A lot of them still live right here in the neighborhood.
I mean, I had kids with one of my exes.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, I have 3 kids.
Oh, wow. No, so
they're 9, 8, and 2.
Oh, so you're still involved.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, have fun.
Oh, I am. They're playing music and all kinds of stuff,
great.
and
Well, every stage is great, but it's funny, when the oldest first went off to college, I was in tears. I was just like, I can't believe, because I was the home dad. I spent a lot of time. It wasn't like my parents. My parents, I grew up in the woods, and my parents both worked. I never saw them. We were close, but
that's how it was for me growing up too.
Yeah, especially if you grew up in that area, especially, right? So
I grew up in Pennsylvania, but where I'm from in PA, it's just like up here in New York.
Yeah,
right around Lancaster.
It's the same kind of, yeah. Oh God, really? Yeah. It's the same thing.
York County.
Yeah, I know the area.
Okay. I'm just trying to give you an exact idea of where I lived.
Yeah, we played Lancaster. We played Lancaster a couple times for one thing, and I know the surrounding area. But like, I grew up in a semi-rural environment.
Okay.
So yeah,
so you understand.
Yeah, I totally understand. But when my oldest was going away, I mean, my parents were like, "Bye."
Right.
Not that we got along fine, but it's just like, you just don't stay. You don't stay in one of those small towns unless you're gonna drive a snowplow or something.
Exactly. I always tell people, especially younger people who have any aspirations of doing anything, I'm like, you need to leave your hometown.
Yeah,
those people don't want to see you do anything with yourself anyway.
Yeah. So it's a different background from where I come, but I live in the coolest part of one of the coolest cities in the entire world. So it's like, why would you want to go anywhere? But he went to downtown Chicago, which is a pretty good. He's going to Columbia College there. But when he left, I was, like I said, distraught. But the minute he walked out the door, I was like, this is all right. Because then the house got a little bit bigger. Then I started looking at the other one.
I can think more about me a little bit.
And my wife. It's like our boys are in the master bedroom. It's like, wow, we could take that over Wednesday. So, but then the pandemic hit. So the youngest stayed home, and he's still here. He's going to college now, but he's going to Europe for a month next week. And then he's going to a 4-year college. So there's much more music to come, is what I'm saying. Much more.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'll be glad to, put any of your stuff on the radio, give you any kind of press you need.
What's really fun is, so my wife jokes that I just need to make music. That's just the way it is. I don't really, if I had never gotten signed to a record label, I'd still be making music on some kind of device and putting it in what my wife calls the shoebox. Because she thought it was just funny that I'd make all these songs, and I play them for her, and then put them in the shoebox and move on to the next one. So I have hundreds of songs. Some of them made their way into Love Battery during that time period. But what's fun about now is I got this guy Roderick from Sky Cries Mary, who's just like, what do you got to show me today that I can put lyrics over? So I've got like these people waiting for me to write for them. Ben, the drummer, I don't know what his deal is. I think he's some kind of trust fund, but he's a genius. He plays every instrument. It's not an instrument, but he's one of the best drummers I've ever played with. But he goes into the studio, Jack's studio, the sound house, and he does drum beats and makes up things that he thinks that I might like. And then he sends them to me, and I write songs over them, and then send them back to Roderick, who puts words on them. And then we float them back and forth. And that's what constitutes a lot of the last 2 Sky Cries Mary's records. So I'm in paradise creatively, in a better position than I ever have been. And I also have people who want me to just come in and play guitar on their records too. So,
hey, I might offer you to play on one of mine.
That's a possibility.
I mean, I play folk punk, but I mean, but that's really cool. I aspire to be where you're at, just making music for your own pure enjoyment.
Yeah.
And I will say that if you ever need to put together a band and decide that you can do like music like again like that, and you need a young guitar player, I don't know a lot of jazz stuff. I'm probably more like Ron, but
Yeah.
I,
You know,
I'd be down.
well, I appreciate that, but don't tell Ron this, because Ron actually is begging me to play. He actually literally begged me the other day to come back and start something new with him. Um, I I'm my influences, unlike the other guys, were also a lot of hip hop type stuff, and trip hop and trance. You don't need a lot of guitars. So
Yeah.
like kind of in my kind of view of music and my own music, actually, which is what which is what Sky Mary's doing. It's more about the beat and techno, and
Okay.
only one guitar. I love right now because
Fair enough.
Jack plays also in Sky Cries Mary, but of like say 10 songs, 2 will be kind of like rock and roll band songs, and we got 2 guitars, and I get to play the lead, and Jack. That's still thrilling, but 8 out of the 10 songs are more trip hoppy, where the guitars are more textural type of thing.
Yeah. Okay. I
Which is
completely get that.
where my head, and personally, that's where my music is too. So right now, Sky Cries Mary is mating up right where I want to be with guitar wise.
You know what, then? I wouldn't want to taint it because that's your thing. And just like my folk punk thing is my thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Yeah.
in a niche genre, it's its own thing.
Yeah.
Completely understand and respect that and have so much. I wish you the absolute best with that.
Well,
I hope you get to take it on tour, and I hope it actually does something. If
yeah. Well, the last record got really good reviews, and they got played here on KXP. You ever listen to KXP?
I've never listened, but I see the stuff they post on YouTube, like the
You
live and the
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. You should just tune in one day just to get a feel of what they are.
Yeah, I'll
They're-
try to get. I should be able to get it on a tuner app somewhere for free on my phone.
it's on the web. Just go to 90.3.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
It's streaming all over. It's the #1 streaming independent radio station in the world. Did you know that?
Nice.
So when you get played on KEXP, that's like one of the most important things that can happen. And they play us all the time still.
Awesome.
They put,
As
not only
they
that,
should.
this had never happened to me. One day in the morning, I was driving to work, and they played the new tune from the new album, which just came out at the beginning of the year, the Sky Cries Memory, and it was in daytime rotation. I was like thrilling.
Wow.
And then later that night, they played Love Battery. So they played Sky Cries Memory and Love Battery in the same day. And they only have so many songs they can play in one day on that station, and everyone's trying to get on that station. And
That's awesome.
yeah, so that made me pretty happy.
I don't have high hopes like that for my stuff. There's no commercial viability, I don't think, but that's okay.
You
I
never
don't.
know. You never know. You really never know. The
Yeah.
world's much wider open than it was before.
Stranger things have happened, right?
Yes.
You know.
I wish you the best of luck in that. And let me.
And I wish you. Yeah, I'll send you some stuff, and you can send me some stuff. I'm a complete guitar and music nerd. We're both guitar players, so I mean, we have that.
Yeah.
What would you tell young musicians who are starting out? What would be like the best advice you could give?
Well, now as we've just now discussed, the world has changed so much. I'm a little bit jealous of young musicians because as we discussed, you can meet someone on. So I grew up in New Hampshire in the same kind of environment that you did. I didn't know anyone else who played guitar at all, so there was no way to get into a garage band when you're 12, like all these other guys did. I treated, when I first started playing guitar, I had played trumpet in the school band, so I had some sort of sense of music, and I like to sing. So just like all of us, we drove around in cars and singing. But we took it pretty seriously. But then I started playing guitar because I don't want to take up too much more time, but I used to have some success writing short stories and things like that. And all of a sudden I got this case of writer's block. And so I actually went to a psychologist about it. He said, you should pick up a hobby and give it a try. So I went into my sister's room, picked up her guitar, and started playing guitar. And that took over.
Yeah.
It totally took over. So, and it was just something I just had to do. But anyway, I didn't get the traditional start that everyone else has to do. We band together with a bunch of people. So I had to play in a vacuum for a very long time. When my friends would come over, I'd slide my guitar into the bed because I didn't really know how to play it. So the only advice that I had was I practiced my ass off. I mean, at one point I was eating speed to stay at night to practice before going to work the next day, driving a forklift.
Yeah.
Because I really thought being in this hole, a town of 3,000 people in Atkinson, New Hampshire is what that was. I was
Yeah.
like, and I was gonna be going to college, but I knew that was just, I was going there to party. I knew that was really why I was going, because my parents were gonna pay for the first year. So I was like, and I knew how much fun college was. And I said, the only way, I think I was writing about this the other night. It's like, the only way I'm going to get a girl, no, that was it, is if
Yeah.
I said, this guitar, and I thought this just last night, actually, this guitar is going to be my ladder out of this.
Yep.
And it
That's
worked.
exactly what yeah. In some way it worked for me too. You know?
Worked.
And
It's hard to believe now, but back then I remember like trying to play a C chord and then do a D and then a G. I was like, how do you do that?
F sharp, where you have to keep the index finger flat and the others arched, I still can't do that. And I don't even bother trying to learn it because it just makes me want to.
You'll get there. If I may say so, what's so weird about right now is I always wanted to get to that point. I knew, and when I was playing like that, I'd say, one day you'll be able to play whatever you think. And I'm there. I can play whatever I think. I can and I can listen to other people play things and I can play it. It's just like, wow, I never thought.
I don't know if it's because I know my own limitations and I try to use them as a strength.
Yeah.
But I've literally had I've had lyrics before I've had music lately, and that never happens. But I heard the music in my head. Like I'm working night shift stocking shelves.
Yeah.
And I'm just repeating the words in my head, and I'm hearing the music and adding parts in my head. And I go home and I record it, and it's done.
See, now that's what Ron has always been there. So you're on the right track. So speaking of limitations, that's something I have never been able to do, and is what you just described, which I imagine would be the classic.
That's how I wrote my single.
Yeah. So oddly, the way I write songs is I always hear a beat that I like, a drum beat that I like, and then I sample it, and then I pick up. I play bass as much as guitar, and I write my songs on the bass, and then flesh it out with the guitar, and then sometimes take the bass off. So I don't have that singer-songwriting thing. So I really wish I did, but that's one thing I just can't fathom. I try to start writing because as a writer, you think I'd be able to write lyrics, but I always find lyrics that I write to be trite. So I just canned the whole notion decades ago. Maybe I'll try it again.
I never think much of my own stuff because it's just what I do.
Mm-hmm.
But I submitted a thing to a poetry thing and they accepted me. And,
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah. And stuff like
That's
that.
exciting.
And I'm just like, okay, I didn't expect any of this. So
that's okay. And that's, you know what? So I have this
because I don't think what I do is anything special, but
yeah,
it is.
But it's just something that you do and you might as well share it. And so there's this guy, an old friend of mine. He's a longtime poet. He's been published over and over and over again. But now, since we have,
I feel like it's a duty.
Yeah, sure. So he posts his latest poem. He'll post it on his page, and I read them, and I like them. But one thing I really like about his poetry is it makes it seem like I can do it too. And I told him that the other day. So I might have to revisit that. The idea of writing poetry and then it coming up in my head. So
I was hugely influenced by Jack Kerouac.
Sure.
Is it Jesse Bernstein? Yeah. Stephen Bernstein. I have a book of his that I got from Larry Reed. I was always into him, Jim Morrison a little bit, not so much the misogyny.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit more like that, and Tom Waits. I love Tom Waits. So I just realized one day poetry doesn't have to rhyme.
No.
So
those are some good examples you just said. It doesn't really get better than Tom Waits, really.
No, there ain't no devil. There's just God when he's drunk.
Yeah.
Oh, so good.
Yeah. So thanks for reminding me. I'm going to revisit that. So
no problem. Okay. I did intend to.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like to say to all of the fans of Sky Cries Mary, of Love Battery?
No, I just want to thank everyone for the kind words that I get from time to time. I love being able to do interviews like this. Look forward to more stuff coming out. And back to your question, I guess, about what I don't really have anything to say to young people because except for, I guess I did say practice. But is that even a thing anymore? Is virtuosity important? It may not be. I don't think it really is. It's more creativity. It's more I don't know. It's more sounds, and there's so much you can do now with
Mhm.
technology. So I say, good for you, young people. Just use
There's
your
so many resources. It makes practicing and learning so much easier.
yeah.
With watching, I learned how to play like 3 songs in a day by watching people cover them on YouTube, just by watching how they were playing it.
Yeah. Now you
You
see,
know,
now I never got that chance, but so when I first started learning how to play guitar,
I was doing
yeah,
tabs. I was printing out tabs off the
yeah,
internet.
so I did that too.
Yeah.
But it's important to see people play. So when I did go see bands, I just parked myself up. And I used to park myself right in front of the guitar player. No matter what band it was, we could have been. I remember the first time I did this was at my prom, at my high school prom. I don't even know what they were playing, but I was dancing with the girl. And I just stood there.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, and I used to be sort of an asshole about my guitar. I mean, I was like, I'm gonna get. I used to go, I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna
Yeah.
get you. I'm gonna be so much better than you. I used to actually do that.
Well, that's how you learn. I used to watch live concert videos of like the Kiss and the Maiden and the
Well,
Nirvana,
that's what I'm
all
saying.
the bands that I loved. And I would always watch whatever
Yeah,
the lead guitar player
it
was
really
doing.
helps. It
I
really
was able
helps.
to air guitar more realistically than anybody else I knew at one
Well,
point.
that's what I used to do too. And in fact, oh, I didn't tell you that story. So I told you about that nightclub I was working where I met all the same people. I met Robert Plant.
Yeah.
So I used to go up and clean the stage too. And sometimes they put on a song I like, and I had a broom, and I would get on the broom and start playing electric guitar, playing air guitar on the broom. And this one guy says, you should probably learn how to, you should probably play guitar. And I said, well, I do actually play guitar. And it was Don McLean from,
Wow.
and, and, uh, so I actually showed him a couple of chords I had, and he goes, that's something you should consider doing. And for me, I took that to the bank. That was a
Yeah. I
big
mean,
deal.
hell.
Yeah. And I said, I was like, Don McLean said I should play guitar, Dad. But actually, I shouldn't say that, because my parents, we've had a fine relationship. But when I started playing guitar near the end, before I moved out, they treated it like it was the priesthood. My parents loved music. They didn't play music, but they were jazz heads, and they loved Motown, because
Okay. Yeah.
I'm black, because you didn't know. They're black.
Yeah.
And when I started playing guitar, they thought that was the greatest thing ever. And they
Yeah.
supported, they just said, that is so great. So, and then when I started going on, and then years later, when I wasn't such a drunk, because I was a bad son, actually. It wasn't their fault. They were fine. And I started touring through New Hampshire, coming through New Hampshire on our national tours. They would come to every show. Like they would go to Portsmouth, New Hampshire. They would go to Boston. They go to Providence and see
Wow.
every show. And sometimes they'd bring their friends. And these are loud, nasty punk rock shows. I'll never forget that. I told them that the other day, that they treated me so well about that. It was a turning point in our lives, actually. So
That's awesome. I'm glad that you have that. And I'm glad,
well, good luck with your children as well, and they're playing.
yeah.
Don't let them quit their day jobs.
Oh, no, 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 no.
All right.
But take it easy. And this
Yeah,
has been fun once
yeah,
again.
Andy, it was a pleasure. And I look forward to seeing your posts.
Absolutely. And I look forward to speaking with you more. And
Sure.
yeah, stick
Yeah.
around.
Yeah, as long as it's during my happy hour, I'm fine.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Just a minute, but thank you, everybody. This
All
has been Andi Thunders and Kevin Whitworth of Love Battery and Skies Cry Mary. Check them out. Pre-order. You know the drill.
All right.
Roll.
All right. So long.